Hey everyone. I'm doing the Book Babble for this week, and I wanted to talk about violence in books. What do you guys think is appropriate or okay to read um, in YA books with violence? Um, I was thinking about it, and a lot of books I read have not a lot, but have some violence in them. And I think it really has to do, it comes down to how the writer writes. Like, can they portray the violence in a certain way? Is it more than just like vulgar? Um, an example of this is the Hunger Games trilogy. And whenever you try to tell somebody who hasn't read the books what they're about, um, they give you this look like, okay, you're crazy for reading that. Um, because I was trying to tell my mom like what the Hunger Games trilogy was about. And I was like, oh well, it's a dystopian future book, and these kids, they have to go into like these gladiator type fights, and they have to fight each other and kill each other, and like the last one surviving, you know, like becomes a hero to like for their district. And like I was giving her more, but like the gist of it is basically these kids go and they have to kill each other. She did not want to read the series, the trilogy at first, because she was like, I do not want to read about children killing each other. And of course, like I pushed it on her enough, and she fell in love with the trilogy. But she was saying that she thinks that she enjoyed it so much because of the way Suzanne Collins wrote it. She was really worried going into the books because she was expecting like these intense and like just like disturbing scenes where kids are dying and killing each other. And I didn't even realize it. I'm wondering if I'm just getting used to violence in books now, which is a really scary thought because people always say that, you get used to like violence and language whenever you watch certain types of movies or playing video games, and I guess the same could be said for books as well. So, what is okay for kids to read when it comes to violence? Do you think that are there any books out there that you've read that you consider having way too much violence, or do you think it is how the writer portrays the violence? What do you think? Another example of this is Harry Potter, and I love the Harry Potter series. I don't have anything negative to say about them whatsoever. There are some scenes where it's kind of intense, And one part that still gets me to this day is when Miss Umbridge was having, the students right into their arms, and like mud blood and like all this stuff, and I don't know, it like really disturbed me, and that's like a small scene of violence, but is that okay? What's considered necessary and what's considered just not necessary? Like, how we asked about swearing and sex in books, because their violence is part of real life, death's part of real life, but what do we want children reading? What do we want them reading about? So do you think that it should be kind of censored for children or younger readers to read, books with violence in them? Personally, I don't think so. I don't want it to go so far as to say that kids should be able to read in adult books. There are some very graphic scenes that I don't think children should read until maybe they're a little bit more mature, and they're ready for them. But I don't know. But then again, who gets to choose what is age appropriate? I think only thing I can think of is the guardians of the children, parents, grandparents, whoever the kids are in the care of, and I'm hoping that the kids have understanding parents. But another example of this is the book Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson, and it's an amazing book. It's beautifully written, and it's about rape and a girl having to into herself and realize, what's happening, and like she's having to deal with this terrible situation. And rape is an extremely violent act, and it was difficult reading about, but I don't know, like, should there be an age restriction for who can read about those type of things? I don't know. I I'm not even really sure. I grew up being allowed to read basically anything that I wanted, and I had an open relationship with my mother, so we talk about books. She loved to read. In middle school, I was reading V.C. Andrews, and if you don't know what kind of books V.C. Andrews writes, there's lots of incest, sex, crazy people. It's crazy, but I remember like in fifth grade reading V.C. Andrews and being obsessed with the V.C. Andrews books for few years into high school, and maybe it depends on the reader and the way the writer tells the story. If the reader is a mature reader and can realize, okay, it's a story, and this scene is essential because, and is able to control their feelings and emotions while they're reading. Not saying that you can't cry and like be like creeped out and be like disgusted, and I'm not saying you can't, feel awkward about the scene you're reading, but you're able to control like feelings, or you're able to control the way you're reading the story, and you realize like, okay, you know what, it's a story. There's a deeper meaning to this. It's characterization, blah blah blah, all the stuff you learn about in classes and stuff. But I don't know. Do we want children to be able to remain children for as long as possible? They're growing up earlier than we used to, but as a book freak, I really think stories are very powerful. When you're reading, it's like you become the character. You're joining their life. You're getting to know them. You're seeing things from their point of view. You're going to be in this story. You're gonna get swallowed in, and so it's gonna be more powerful. And the violent acts. It's gonna be hard to like disassociate yourself from that. And so I don't know, should there be restrictions on violence in books and for young adult readers? And I don't know. I don't want to say yes, because life is full of violence, and I don't want books to be just, fairy tales and happy endings and rainbows. I love reading about books where you feel like that, okay, yeah, that's real, that happens, and you're learning from something from the story as the character is. And I don't know, what do you guys think about violence in books? Do you think there's too much of it now? And do you think that, the type of violence has changed in books? I don't know. Let me know. Give me examples of books that you think have been maybe extremely violent. I don't know. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. I love hearing from you guys. And alright, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!